Hello everyone, this is Ruchir Desai from Asia Frontier Capital in Hong Kong, and I'm very happy to be a part of the Invest Sri Lanka conference, and I'm also very happy that I have been given this opportunity to speak to you via this platform. I am the co-fund manager of the AFC Asia Frontier Fund, which is currently invested in 13 different Asian frontier markets, including Sri Lanka. So Asia Frontier Capital is a fund management company which is headquartered in Hong Kong and which was established in 2013 by Thomas Hugger, who is currently also the CEO and founder of the firm, while I have also been in the firm since inception. As the name suggests, we invest solely in listed equities in Asian frontier markets. And besides our AFC Asia Frontier Fund, which is our regional focused frontier markets equity fund, we also have three other frontier markets funds, but these are country specific funds, such as the AFC Iraq Fund, the AFC Uzbekistan Fund, and the AFC Vietnam Fund. So, in total, we have four funds under management with a primary focus on investing in Asian frontier markets. Now, with respect to our investment approach to investing in Asian frontier markets, we usually take a longer term approach to investing in these markets because we believe that these markets are still growing from a very low base in terms of the economic growth or in terms of the GDP. So there's a lot of growth potential in the longer run, and therefore we have to take a longer term view while investing in these markets. Besides that, and more importantly, valuations in the Asian frontier markets are still very attractive. Most markets trade at P multiples of 15 times or less, and some even trade at P multiples of 7 and 8 times. And Sri Lanka also is valued attractively in this case with the P multiple of about 10 times. Besides attractive valuations and long-term GDP growth, I think the demographics in Asian frontier markets are very attractive because in general our universe has a large young population with a very low median age, and therefore there will be a large consuming class over the next decade or so. Besides these factors, one important trend which is taking place and which is very important to us in terms of investing in Asian frontier markets is the supply chain shift happening from China into lower cost countries such as Vietnam and Bangladesh, and to some extent to Sri Lanka as well, as we've seen garment exports grow over the last decade or so from Sri Lanka as well, due to some manufacturing plants moving into Sri Lanka and in the region. So these are some of the factors why we believe in Asian frontier markets and why we believe in the story of Asian frontier markets. And within this universe, Sri Lanka is one of the countries that we have invested in, and we remain invested in Sri Lanka because we believe in the long-term potential of the country. Now, why do we believe in the long-term potential of the country, and why have we invested in Sri Lanka? So, a couple of reasons, a couple of points I would like to make over here. So, one is Sri Lanka over the last couple of years has been a very under-researched market, especially when it comes to foreign investors. Many foreign investors have been net sellers in Sri Lanka over the last 2 or 3 years, and not just in Sri Lanka, but that's been the case probably in many other markets in the region or frontier markets in the region like Pakistan and Bangladesh. So, this net foreign selling over the last couple of years has made many of the stocks, I would say, under researched and ignored, especially from a foreign investor perspective. And therefore, there's not much work being done on them, despite the fact that these are blue chip companies, they're well run, have good management teams, and fundamentally stable with strong cash flows and strong balance sheet. So that is one reason why we like Sri Lanka, and therefore we have increased our way to Sri Lanka over the last 18 to 24 months because of this fact that many of these stocks are undervalued, under researched, and therefore ignored. So carrying on from that point in terms of being under researched, the valuations also are very attractive. So many of these blue chip companies, which are, I would say, not researched very aggressively by the foreign investors, are trading at 15 times PE or even less. I mean, there are many blue chip companies in Sri Lanka which are trading at even 10 times or less than 10 times at this point in time. So that is a lot of value on the table over there from a longer term investor perspective. And also Sri Lanka in general as a market as a whole. I mean, if you look at the PE multiple for Sri Lanka right now, it's about 10 times on a trailing 12 months earnings basis. And that is still a discount to many of the markets in the region. I would say most of the markets in the region. So Sri Lanka also, on an overall basis, offers quite a bit of value compared to historical valuations. I mean, if you look at valuations in 2014 and 2015, the PE ratio of the market was about 14 or 15 times, and now we are back to about 10 times. So there's still a lot of room to grow. Assuming that things improve from here on in terms of general macroeconomic environment and also the earnings recovery for many other companies that are listed on the exchange. So these are some of the factors from I would say from a fundamental perspective that we like Sri Lanka. So the stocks are under researched. The large caps, the larger names like blue chip names are under researched. The valuation is very attractive. So I would say it's a value market at this point in time, and anyone it's a stock pickers market at this point in time for someone or for foreigners who are looking to invest in Sri Lanka. Besides the the fundamental aspects and the valuation aspect of Sri Lanka, I think there are other important reasons why we like Sri Lanka from a longer term perspective. One of the factors which is important to me and also to us is the fact that Sri Lanka has a very strategic location geographically, especially in this region, especially in these changing times and in these, I would say in this changing geopolitical environment. Sri Lanka's geographic position is very strategic from my perspective. And I don't think it has met that true potential in terms of taking advantage of the geographic potential. I mean, already Colombo, the port of Colombo, is the most busiest port in all of South Asia, and I think we all know that most of the port of Colombo is being used mainly for Indian transshipments at this point in time. But I think there's more room to grow from that perspective as well, and making Colombo in general, or Sri Lanka in particular, a transportation hub or transportation region, focusing on transportation as a strategy going forward as well. Uh, besides just focusing on transportation and making Sri Lanka a transportation hub, I think in general, because of the geographic location, Sri Lanka can really leverage that in terms of attracting other industries such as service industries or other business services to come to the country in the longer term, and that's something which obviously the government is focusing on and has a vision for that. So I think eventually, if that happens, that will really help the economy and also really help Sri Lanka stand out in the region going forward as well. So I think from that perspective, there's a lot of room to grow. By taking advantage of the geographic position of the country. Uh, on top of that, the country has a large population of English speakers with very good English language skills, which would be important in this environment. And also, I would say from a standard of living perspective, I would say Colombo, as it develops further, will be one of the better cities in terms of having a good standard of living compared to some of the other South Asian cities. So from that perspective as well, Sri Lanka can look to attract other foreign investors or other investors to come to look and do business in Sri Lanka in the longer term as well. So I would say besides valuations and fundamentals and and earnings growth, etc. I think the geographic position of Sri Lanka is very important, and I think the country should fully utilize that in the longer run to really fulfill its potential in terms of economic growth and also its location in the region. Besides that, tourism is something which has been spoken about before, but obviously, I think these days, tourism is not the sector which a lot of people talk about, given the fact that it has been impacted very negatively by the pandemic. But if you look at Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals even before the pandemic struck, or even before the Easter Sunday attacks, Sri Lanka was attracting about 2 million international visitors every year, which even at that time was still lower compared to other countries in the region like Cambodia or Vietnam, which pre-COVID or pre-pandemic were doing annual tourist arrivals of about 7 million and 18 million respectively. So Sri Lanka at 2 million was still lower than some of the other countries, and there was a lot of potential to grow the tourism sector pre-pandemic. Now, of course, post-pandemic, let's see how soon the situation stabilizes or how soon the vaccine rollout happens in many of the countries in the region. But eventually, if and when things stabilize or get back to more normalcy, I think Sri Lanka can take full advantage of the fact that it could be again another big tourism attraction in the region as well, given the fact that the countries look at close to two big tourism source markets like China and India. So that's something to think about in the long run as well, from a overall macro and country perspective. Because if and when tourism does recover, maybe taking a more longer term view, not 1 year or 2 year view, but a 5 or 6 or 7 year view, then those foreign exchange reserves will really help the country, especially in terms of the overall macroeconomic environment. So I would say this is a sector also which could be developed much further and could be strengthened much further going forward. So I would say these are some of the factors why we like Sri Lanka from a long-term story perspective. So of course, the valuations are cheap, the valuations are attractive, fundamentals are fine. In fact, we are very impressed by the management teams of many of the companies that we have invested in and that we've met on the ground on a regular basis. So the companies are very well managed, and also besides that, like I mentioned, the geographic location and the other sectors that they can focus on, like tourism in the longer run can really add a lot of value to the country going forward and to the economy going forward, and strengthen the overall economy as well in the future. So besides investing in many of the companies, I've been coming to Sri Lanka on a regular basis. In fact, I've been covering the market since 2013, and I've been coming to Sri Lanka every year between 2014 to 2019 for our annual investor conference in Colombo. So I've been on the ground on a regular basis. Of course, post 2019, we've had the COVID and the pandemic, so I've not been able to visit for the last probably 18 or 24 months. But before that, I was on the ground on a regular basis. And getting access to companies or management teams was never an issue for me, or us. We were always meeting companies on a regular basis. So in terms of corporate access, there was never really an issue of meeting many of the companies, be it large cap companies or some of the mid-sized companies as well. There was never they were always accessible to us, and that is one of the good signs for any market, not just the frontier market, emerging market, but for any market. That's a very good sign when companies are open to meeting investors on a regular basis. And besides that, I think the filings in Sri Lanka, the quarterly filings and the annual filings also are all in English. That is a big advantage for us or for anyone who wants to analyze financial statements or analyze data, compared to some other markets who still don't have filings in English. So access to management, corporate access, filings in English is very important. For example, in some markets that we invest in, companies don't even want to meet investors. It's not just us; they don't want to meet any foreign investors. That kind of So they could be good companies, but you don't have much of an idea what's going on because they don't really meet investors. But that's never really been the case in Sri Lanka. So from a corporate access perspective, I think Sri Lanka has done very well to sell the story and for companies to sell their story. So that's not really been an issue. Uh, from a trading perspective, also not we. I mean, we've been trading in Sri Lanka since, like I said, since the last 6 or 7 years. Never really had an issue with execution or anything of that sort. But I would say there's one area for improvement, or some room for improvement in some areas. For example, in the post trade, the contract note, it still takes us more than an hour and a half sometimes to get a contract note from the broker. So obviously this is something the regulator or the exchange has to look at, and how to improve or streamline this or make it more efficient, because this is clearly not the case in any of the markets that we invest in, like Bangladesh, Pakistan, or Vietnam, where we get the contract notes pretty soon. In fact, sometimes even less than 60 minutes post market close. But in Sri Lanka, as of now, it's taking sometimes even more than 1.5 hours, more than 90 minutes to get the contract notes. So these are some of the things that could be worked on to improve the efficiency of the exchange and therefore attract more investors. Besides that, I would say, of course, some things are out of everyone's control. For example, when the pandemic first struck in February and March 2020, especially March 2020, when Sri Lanka announced lockdown, even the stock exchange was closed to investors for more than a month, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, these things are out of anyone's control, but at the same time, I think it's very important to give confidence to foreign investors that such events, if they happen, will not affect the operations of the exchange for a prolonged period of time. So I think that is something which did hurt investors' confidence at that point in time. But having said that, of course, these things were out of anyone's control. But I guess in the future, if such kind of unforeseen events or natural calamities do happen, then I think the exchange of the regulators should ensure that there's proper streamlining or proper functioning of the exchange despite these events, because that will give a lot of confidence to foreign investors, that they can still trade despite any events, if such events do happen. So I would say these are some of the points that could be improved upon in the future or in the long run to attract more foreign investors. So, but besides that, I would say, Sri Lanka has we've not had any issue in terms of trade execution or anything of that sort. And also, Sri Lanka, the liquidity in the market is still very low. So, daily trading volumes are not very high. But I think that comes with the fact of investing in frontier markets. I mean, frontier markets in generally, most frontier markets do are markets which have low liquidity. So it's not a Sri Lanka specific issue. And also at the same time, you should make a fair comparison. I think you can't really compare, Sri Lanka's trading volumes to a larger economy, like say in the region, like say Thailand or Indonesia or India for that matter. So these are much larger economies, and Sri Lanka is a much smaller economy. So you have to keep that in mind as well. But at the same time, if you look at the MSCI Frontier Markets Index, which is the index in which Sri Lanka is listed as a frontier market. Sri Lanka is as good or in fact better in terms of daily trading volumes. Of course, Vietnam and Pakistan and Bangladesh have higher trading volumes than Sri Lanka. But if you look at some of the other African and Eastern European countries, they have lower trading volumes than Sri Lanka. For example, over the last 12 months, the average daily trading volume in Sri Lanka is about $15 million, but these volumes are even, or these numbers are even lower in some African countries like Nigeria or Kenya, or Eastern European countries, or countries like Romania or Croatia or Estonia, where volumes are even much lower. So Sri Lanka is doing okay in terms of comparables, in terms of volumes over there. But of course, investors would love to see more liquidity. Many of the privately run companies also, some are very liquid, some are still not. Some still don't have very large free float, so it's not easy to invest in them. So, if there are any steps to increase the free float in some of these companies which are very well run, and I'm sure many investors want to invest in them, but they cannot because of the lack of free float. If the regulators could increase that, that'll be very beneficial or very helpful, not just for investors but also for attracting new investors and new capital into the stock market in Sri Lanka, and making it more liquid, and attracting many more investors, and helping the Sri Lanka story even more. So these are some of the ways that Sri Lanka can improve their profile amongst the investors as well. Uh, Besides that, I would say longer term, of course, like I said earlier, that Sri Lanka, there is a lot of value on the table for investors. It is a stock pickers market at this point in time. Especially it has been a stock pickers market over the last couple of years, in fact. And if you look at the market cap to GDP in Sri Lanka, it's only 20%, which is still very low compared to most of the other Asian countries, or most of the other, even some of the other frontier markets in Asia, like Vietnam, which has a much higher market cap to GDP. So there's a lot of room to grow, the market cap in Sri Lanka, because at $16 billion, it is still very low compared to some of the other markets in the region. Uh, and of course, the regulators or the government would probably want to try and incentivize some of the larger private companies, or some of the mid-sized companies to list on the exchange, or also try and list some of the SOEs or state-run companies, which will also attract new investors, both foreign and domestic, into the stock market. But I think besides that, I think there are also other steps the government, or the other steps that the regulators or the authorities can take, to let other industries, or other sectors flourish within companies that are already listed. For example, fintech is one space where I believe that there's a lot of room to grow in Sri Lanka, a lot of room for this sector to flourish in Sri Lanka. But I think regulation over here is kind of holding the sector back, because, for example, in Kazakhstan, a company called Kaspi, which is a fintech play. It's listed in London, but its market cap is $16 billion, and its market cap of just one company from Kazakhstan listed in London is equal to the entire market cap of Sri Lanka. And of course, Kazakhstan and Sri Lanka, is in terms of size of population, is almost similar. So I'm just trying to give an example over there, that there's so much value to be unlocked in some of these sectors or some of these companies, which can really help the overall stock market, overall profile of the country. So this company from Kazakhstan listed in London has seen a tremendous increase in its market capitalization or market value over the last maybe 6 or 7 months. At the same time, in Sri Lanka, you have fintech is an opportunity, like I mentioned, but there are listed companies which could take advantage of that. But if the regulation allows them to prosper, or flourish, that could really help some of these listed companies to really increase their market value. And this will not only be good for the company, or for the shareholders of that company or those companies. I think it'll be good for the entire stock market, because the profile of the stock market will be lifted if you have a company's market cap increasing significantly, say over the next 2 or 3 years, due to some kind of disruptive business model like e-commerce, or fintech. And that'll be raise the profile of the entire country and the stock exchange, not just of that company, or a company, or not just be beneficial for the shareholder. And because this company has, because such sectors could see increase in their market capitalization or market value because of some of the new business models, then other companies would be attracted to list in the market. So that is something the regulators could probably think about. How do you let some of these sectors flourish, or do well, which in fact can already help companies which are listed, and which are already existing, which are listed currently on the market, and this could increase their market cap even further. So I would say this is, fintech is an area which has a lot of room to grow in Sri Lanka, but I think there's probably some kind of roadblocks which are affecting it. I'm not sure what those roadblocks are, but if you look at fintech in some regional markets, like say even India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, it is growing significantly, and you have a lot of these companies. Some are listed, some are unlisted, but their market value, their valuations are very attractive and very high. So I think this can happen in Sri Lanka as well if many of the companies or some of the listed companies are given the chance to disrupt some of the industries or some of the sectors that they're operating in. So these are some of the things that I have in mind, that I've noticed that there's a lot of room to grow, not just by getting new listings or new companies to list, but also allowing existing companies to flourish by by removing regulatory roadblocks or some issues that they could face in increasing their sectors or their valuation. So yeah, that's some of the factors that I thought I could share. But besides that, of course, like I mentioned, valuation is very attractive, and the long-term opportunity is there. I mean, if you look at some of the infrastructure projects like Colombo Port City and the Colombo International Financial City, there's a lot of room to grow, and it's very attractive from a longer-term perspective in terms of positioning Sri Lanka as a hub in the region. So those are good long-term projects to focus on for the country as well. But I would say besides investors or foreign investors looking at just the companies or bottom-up valuations or looking for attractive opportunities, foreign investors, including us, we also look at the macro and the top-down as well. And over here, I think there's a lot of room for improvement for Sri Lanka. And of course, I don't need to spell it out that many foreign investors are concerned about the external debt situation of the country. But although I'm confident that Sri Lanka will meet its external obligations. But I strongly believe that if the government can or the authorities can take steps to increase investor confidence with respect to the overall macro situation or the external repayment situation of the country, that will really help allay some fears among foreign investors, and it will help attract them back in the market, which would also be very beneficial in terms of bring them back in the market and improving the Sri Lanka story, and overall helping valuations move forward as well. So, like I said earlier, Sri Lanka is sitting at 10 times, a P ratio of 10 times, but 5 years back it was trading at about 14 or 15 times. So, hopefully, the value is unlocked. Uh, the steps are taken to bring back growth, bring back stability, and we are there. We are long-term investors, so we are prepared to ride with the good times and the bad times. And I think hopefully sooner or later, I think there'll be more good times in Sri Lanka as well, given the fact that there are a lot of good opportunities to take advantage of its position in the region, and also take advantage of all the growth opportunities that come across its way. So we are here for the long run, and we hope to enjoy more returns from the market, and hope to see the market do even better over the long run as well. So thank you very much. It was very nice, discussing this with you, and hopefully I look forward to being in the country soon instead of talking on Zoom calls or on video conferences. So hopefully things stabilize, and look forward to being back in Colombo, a city which I really like and really like spending time in. And see you soon. Thank you very much.